Arsdale, and I'm on staff at the Greater Reading Chamber of Commerce Alliance. And it's great to be with you again for another episode of our Member Spotlight. And today I have Sara Dickey with me, who is the Executive Director?
Development Director.
Development Director of the American Heart Association right here in Berks County. So we're going to be talking about a few things that are not only upcoming in terms of events and programs that American Heart is doing, but talk a little bit about some of the misnomers, misconceptions about heart disease and heart episodes that we've talked about, Sara, in the past.
Of course, yeah.
And so I want to get right to it. You have been with the organization for about 3 years.
Yes.
And you know, again, years ago I was on the heart board, and I really got to learn a lot of good applicable information about heart disease and stroke, particularly that which affects women.
Yes.
And while we won't spend all of our time talking about that, I think some of those statistics are really interesting to reacquaint perhaps our listening audience with about heart and stroke disease among women in our nation today.
I agree. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death for all Americans, women and men. And it does affect more lives every year than all cancers combined. So it is the #1 risk that we all face. 1 in 3 people is affected by heart disease. And for women, it's a common misconception that it's a man's disease.
Sure.
It affects just as many women, and a lot of times women don't really understand their risk when it comes to heart disease, and especially don't really recognize what those warning signs are when they come to a heart attack, because I think what we're all kind of used to is the Hollywood heart attack, the crushing chest pain.
And we'll fall down.
Exactly. Right. But for women, it can be really different. Fatigue, indigestion, pain kind of back between your shoulder blades. It can be jaw pain, and really for men too, it can be so many different warning signs, and not everyone is going to present the same way. So it's really important to just understand what your body should feel like, recognize when something doesn't feel right, and go and visit your doctor and find a doctor who you feel really comfortable with and that you can open and have an open conversation and dialogue with, so that way you can really understand what your body should be feeling like, and maybe identifying some things preventatively moving forward.
Sure. And I know one of the things that I learned in my years on the board of the Heart Association was, do not wait, go to the hospital, because the best thing you could do is have a false alarm.
Yes.
And then you go home. But if you don't do that, and don't drive yourself to the hospital either.
Don't do that.
And I did the exact for my mother, who is now deceased, but who and this is kind of close to my heart, because my mother had multiple issues with heart disease. Mm-hmm. And she was literally having a heart attack, and we did not realize it in visiting her in another state. And I kept saying, are you feeling okay? Oh, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And finally, I said, you're getting in the car and we're taking you to the hospital. Well, she indeed was actually experiencing a heart attack, which took a long time. Mm-hmm. It was not just a fall over and have a heart attack. So,
exactly.
It was, and then she wound up having a stent put into one of her arteries. Wow. But so those are the even if there are warning signs that you just don't feel like you've felt, like you said, learn to know what your body feels like, which is really important. And I think we just live in a stressful world.
Yes, we do.
And that is probably part of it. Perhaps the way we eat. Yep. Don't take care of ourselves in exercising. Mm-hmm. All the things that we know to do but don't do. And that's really what you're doing. You're really educating companies, and that's the other thing that we'd like to get a little bit more well-known and more awareness about, is that Sara is really kind of on a mission to meet with more companies. So regardless of size of company, it really behooves you, if you've got employees, that you need to keep your employees healthy.
Absolutely.
You want them at maximum peak performance. Mm-hmm. You want them to be healthy. And yet so often what we don't do, the last thing that companies do, while some larger companies might have a some sort of a health program?
Yeah.
You know, are they really finding that people are taking advantage of it? Or if they don't have a program, should they not be having a program?
Exactly. And what we're finding is that a lot of companies might have a health program, but it's not kind of comprehensive, and it's not really looking at data that explains what the need is at your company. So we created, in conjunction with a board of people from large companies across the country, what we call our Workplace Health Solutions, which is really a tool that allows you to input data, from aggregate data from your company, from your employees, without using their identities, to identify what the need is at your company.
Oh, wow,
and where
that's
you can.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so it helps you, I think, be a little bit more strategic when, implementing some of these programs. You know, a lot of them are self-reporting, and are not really they may be helping some people to get healthier, but that number is pretty low. So this way you can really look at strategically. And cardiovascular disease is a huge expense for employers.
Sure.
So it's important to kind of understand that with heart disease and with any, it really then affects a lot of other diseses. So diabetes becomes a factor.
Absolutely.
And
I was going to say the chronic diseases that we don't take up, like you said, about 75% of costs of healthcare today is really around some of these chronic diseases.
Yeah.
And if employers out there listening can think about the fact that what does that do to your bottom line in your company? Because again, you're looked upon with health insurance really around the wellness and health of your employees. So it's almost like it's this conundrum that companies are looking at, the benefits people are looking at, what the sort of the bottom line and wanting to get the best price they can for health insurance, and yet they're not keeping employees healthy, or they're not helping them because everybody is so, busy, that if you could do something like you're talking about, the self-reporting, and say, okay, you know what, we've got these issues that are really here in our company.
Yeah.
Let's do something, whether it's in putting in maybe some vending machines that are a little bit more healthy.
Yep.
Maybe having even time for exercise. We see this in other countries where they're exercising during the workday, and we're so afraid about the just pushing the workday and getting the most production out of the least number of hours. So I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but one of the things that I know that we're going to do with one of our programs at the Chamber, Women to Women, is we're going to really put the word out. We're not going to have necessarily a team of women to women walkers, but the Heart Walk is coming up, and we're going to really encourage and challenge women to show up that day. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So our Heart Walk is on September 29th. And for this year, we're introducing our Heart Hero 5K. So we have a 5K component included. And our Heart Walk is really meant to be a time to really educate yourself around health and wellness. We have healthy eating demos. We have exercise demos. It's an event that has no registration fee. The run, of course, does. That's a $25 registration fee, but the walk itself doesn't. It's at Grings Mill on a Saturday morning. And we really just want it to be a place where you can educate yourself on health and wellness, but also recognize someone in your life that you may have lost, or a loved one who's struggling with heart disease, or a survivor. It's for all of those people. We know heart disease and congenital heart defects affect many people in our communities, and we want the Heart Walk to be an area for people to come together and meet one another and learn more about being healthier.
Which goes right into another topic that we're going to be talking about in our Women to Women magazine, because we always do a health component there, and we've talked a lot about heart being heart healthy. And in our next edition in July, we're going to feature two young ladies. They're twins.
Yes.
And they are what do we call them?
They're our heart ambassadors this year, our ambassador family.
Ambassadors.
Cecilia and Katerina, they have cardiomyopathy, which is a pretty rare disease for children. It's pediatric cardiomyopathy. That they've both been struggling with for a couple years now. So there's not a lot of research. The American Heart Association does fund some research around this, but because it's so rare, It's not as heavily researched as a lot of other conditions, and the family is really excited to be able to bring some more awareness around what their girls are going through. And it's a little bit different. It's a lot of times we see congenital heart defects, but this is something that they developed kind of in their adolescent years, so it's very interesting.
How old are the girls?
They're 10.
Okay, okay. Well, we look forward to meeting them through the magazine and seeing them at the Heart Walk. And I'm going to encourage you and challenge people who are out there, men and women. It's time to get out and walk for a good cause. We do this all the time. But again, we talk about this whole challenge that we have as a nation. And even if we're living longer, sometimes we're not living as healthy because we've not taken care of ourselves in those busiest years when we're just so busy working and we're not thinking about our health. So
you want your quality of life to be higher when you have that free time.
Exactly. So Sarah, I really thank you for being on board, and I'm hoping that the Chamber will help.
I think it will, yes.
With not only the Heart Walk bringing awareness, talking to companies about why it's important for your bottom line and your employees to be healthy, and to look for those signs of heart disease. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Thanks.